everybody, this is Jameson, and this is my very first wargaming video. Now, I'm relatively new, or I should just say brand new, to the whole wargaming hobby. I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube, people like Chung over at WGConsortium, Generalsplatton, Alexander from Girl Painting, Bill over at terrainaholic, terrain noob, a lot of people, and I've really been inspired. And I figure, maybe I'll give it a shot here and basically kind of document my newbies steps into the field. Now, I did step into the field a little bit years back. Years back, I went out and I bought this 3rd edition for 40K set, and at the time I bought that, I bought some paint, I bought this paint set and some tools, a little hobby kit. The paint set came with 5 Marines, and I thought, hey, that's a good way to practice. I'll put these, they were little snap together Marines. I'll put these together, I'll practice painting on them, and then I'll move on to the Marines in the big box set. So I put my Marines together, and me knowing nothing at the time, didn't know any idea, had no idea that I'm supposed to, remove the flash and the mold lines and things like that. So they ended up looking kind of crappy. And I primed them, went outside, sprayed my white primer on them, got back inside and figured, well, what am I going to paint them? Well, the instructions in there had them as ultramarine, so I thought, well, I'll paint them blue. So I got one and I started to paint him blue. I got his shoulder pads, his arms and his legs blue, and then I stopped for the evening. Now, I have no idea what happened. This was like 10 years ago. Something happened and I didn't get back to it the next day, or the next day, or the next day after that. And for whatever reason, I never got back to it. And I had these 5 Marines sitting there, white and primed, except one had blue arms and blue legs, for years and years and years. Now, I ended up selling that house and moving into a new place, and I got married in the time in between, and those 5 white Marines in the box set just sat around, and I never got back to them. So recently, this past year, I started getting back into my old hobbies, especially Dungeons and Dragons, and I saw that box set sitting around, and I thought, maybe I'll finally get around to painting those Marines. Well, after 9-10 years, these paints were dried up. They were pointless. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to get some new paint. So I went on the internet and I bought several paint sets. And these came with more Marines, and one came with a bunch of goblins for the fantasy. And by this point, I'd done a lot more reading. I knew what to do. Bought some proper tools. Remove the flash and the mold lines and whatnot. But those first 5 white Marines were still sitting around, and I thought, well, they're still going to be practice Marines. So what I did was, I decided, since they're going to be practice Marines, I'm just going to paint them any old color. And I know this isn't going to show up very well on here, but my first 5 Marines, I gave them kind of a Power Rangers theme, just for practice. And so that's what I did with those. Then I painted the goblins that came with the paint set, and then I finally got around to putting all the Dark Eldar together that came with the 3rd edition set, and I've been in the process of painting those. Watching all the videos on YouTube have been really helpful, especially Generalsplatton's reviews. He convinced me to try Reaper paints, and I really love their Reaper paints. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Reaper paints, but I found that I'm developing my own style with kind of combines Reaper and Citadel paints, which I don't know if anybody else does that or not. But in my usual style, as I get into something, I usually go full bore and go overboard almost. So naturally, I had to go out and get the new 8th edition rulebook and 5th edition 40K rulebook, because hey, my old codex from 3rd edition just ain't going to cut it anymore. But then I see everybody's talking about the new box sets, Island of Blood and Assault on Black Reach. So naturally, what did I do? I had to buy that one and that one as well. I haven't put any of these together yet because I'm still working on those Dark Eldar, but hey, I got those. But then that still wasn't good enough either, so Battle for Skull Pass and Battle for McCraig. Now, between all these box sets, I've got a lot. I've got a lot of Marines. And the only ones that are painted are these Power Ranger themed ones. So I figure what I'm going to do with my Marines, I'm going to go with the Imperial Fists, because there's too many Ultramarines out there, and for whatever reason I just kind of gravitated toward the Imperial Fist. I kind of like the yellow and all that. I also wanted to get into terrain making. That was another big draw to the field. I always wanted to do terrain, even as far back as when I was in D&D back in the 80s. I wanted to do terrain for the game, but I had no idea how to do it, and I didn't have the money to go buy books to do it, and the library didn't have anything, so I never got around to it. Well, YouTube is loaded with people that do this stuff. People like Cam Lupian, Bill from Terrainaholic, a lot of people that got awesome stuff on there. So that was a real inspiration. I was like, hey, you know, I can finally learn how to do these things I want to do. Look at all the tips they got. So I set up an area in the garage, which will feature in another video. And I've been working on should have had this prepared a little better. This was my first little terrain piece I made from a piece of a foam. Used a foam cutter to cut the little brick pattern in there, and then painted it and whatnot. And I'm pretty happy for a very first attempt. You know, it doesn't look the greatest, but I was pleased with it. You know, as something to start off with. You know, you get close to it, you can still see all the little cells from the styrofoam. So, you know, I wouldn't want to foist that off on anybody's game. But, so, basically, in my wargaming videos, I'm going to show how I'm approaching the whole hobby. I have never played Warhammer with anybody. I approach it from a hobbyist point of view, collecting and painting and putting things together. Maybe someday I'll venture down to the game store and try to convince somebody to let me play or show me how to play. But for now, it's all about the collecting and the painting, and also watching a lot of things. I heard about this game called War Machine, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting into some of those models, that and Hordes. And so I'm starting to ramble now and not make a lot of sense. And so it's time to wrap it up. But basically, from here on out, I'm going to just kind of chronicle my quote-unquote newbies forays into the field, and hopefully somebody might tune in at some point or another. So thanks for watching, and please comment with any tips or advice, and I'll see you later.